Paul, and I like how he starts this. He says, this might be a no-go zone, and maybe it is. You tell me. I remember reading Billy suing film critic Leonard Maltin, who in his video guide referred to Billy as a drug addict after Billy appeared in the documentary Dusty and Sweet McGee. Any comment on that?
Well, not just a drug addict. He accused me of being a heroin addict, and that was my objection. I smoked some grass.
Sure, yeah,
but he had me as a heroin addict because this movie was about heroin addicts.
Oh, wow.
And there were actual addicts portraying themselves in the show.
Oh my gosh.
But I saw something like this coming, and me and the producer, who played a part in the movie as well, he played what you call it, where you bring it in.
A smuggler?
Smuggler, right. He played a smuggler and I played a dealer. And at the start of the movie, it says the smuggler and the dealer are played by actors, and made it clear that we weren't drug addicts, or dealers or whatever like that. So I mean, I don't know if Leonard actually ever saw the movie even, because I think he has people that review for him and he prints it. I'm pretty sure that's the way it is.
Yeah.
But I called him and said, this is you got this wrong, and asked him to change it, and he didn't want to change it.
Oh,
he didn't do
gosh.
it. And maybe he figured that my pot bust was enough. He could call me anything after that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe there's a logic to that. I don't know.
Wow, that's really interesting. That is. That's yeah, and it's tough too because it's like Leonard Maltin. You think he knows his stuff.
It's a good book.
Yeah,
I got the book,
Yeah.
and he did change it eventually. He
Oh,
did.
he did?
He did change the entry. He gave it. I think he gave it 3.5 stars. It was a pretty good movie actually.
Yeah.
Too. But I couldn't get him to change it when I wanted him to change it. He just changed it after a settlement.
Unbelievable. Wow. Okay. Somebody's gonna. I actually it copied over. I guess. Oh, I know what this one is. This is from Sue's. Are you still into cars?
Cars?
Yeah, she has cars down. Or
Well,
were you
not
into
really.
cars?
I'm not a
No.
car guy.
You're a motorcycle guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Amy, I absolutely love Father Knows Best. I saw that many times in the early seasons that Bud would run into the basement. This is kind of what we talked about. Was the basement and the upstairs of the set just for looks?
I think the basement was created on the same set as the house, as the home. It's just off to, the sets are pretty big, or like what do you call it?
Like a swing set?
No, they just put up a couple of walls, and that was the basement.
Gotcha.
There wasn't really a real basement anywhere. It was just
When you needed it, they knew
the walls came
walls
up. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right. And your bedroom, was that a permanent
same
deal?
thing. Yeah.
Okay. This is from J.L. Bellwriter. Says, I'm curious about whether the scene in Father is a Bachelor, the William Holden one, that I pointed to in a comment on part 1 of the interview is the one Mr. Gray remembers filming with William Holden. He believed that was cut out. So was it originally longer, or was there another scene as well? This conversation comes soon after a scene in which all the boys march off to school in new clothes and shoes. So it would also be easy to assume the character of Feb wouldn't reappear in ragged pants and barefoot.
Well, I've got the idea in my mind that I had a nice scene with William Holden.
Yeah.
And I eventually got a copy of the movie, and there's no scene there anymore. I mean, there's a couple of lines, but not a scene.
Right.
Just trivial. And I've always wondered, did I make it up in my mind that I had this scene with William Holden, or did I have it and they cut it out? I don't know.
It could easily be on the cutting room floor. I mean,
It could
they did
be.
it for time. Yeah.
It could be.
I'm going to go more with that than you forgot, because
Yeah.
I personally think that that's a good chance.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? Yeah. Okay, great. Bill, please ask him if it's true that Robert Young would often invite Lauren Chapin to his home on weekends because he knew her home life was pretty bad.
I don't know one way or the other on that one. I was never invited to his home, although he did take me on an airplane ride one time.
Did he?
Yeah, he was a pilot, and he owned his own plane too. And we went up to we flew up to Santa Barbara, and then turned around and came back. But that's the only outside of a work environment that I had any contact with him. He was kind of a what would you say, private, I guess would be. Reserved.
Yeah. What was well, the heck with that. I mean, that's kind of cool. He flew you up to Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
What was he like as like, I know his image of on Father Knows Best. I know we talked. He might have had an alcoholism as well. Yeah. But what was he like as a pilot? Like, was he? I'm just trying to visualize.
I don't recall him giving me the controls. My brother did. My brother's a pilot and had a plane too.
Yeah.
And I got to steer his plane, and we go from one island to the other a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I got to do that, but I don't recall. I think he had an Aero Commander, which is quite a real airplane. It's not just a Piper Cub or anything.
Wow. Yeah. Wow, that's pretty cool that he took you up there.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
Oh wow.
I mean, he was a nice guy. Actually, I got nothing.
Of course.
Nothing ill to say about him at all. He was he was right on.
Was he still reserved when he was like the pilot flying you up to Santa Barbara, or was he a little more in his element?
No, he was pretty much uniformly himself.
I gotcha. Okay, very cool. That's neat to hear that he did that, though. I mean, I think he obviously had a really good heart,
And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if he didn't, if that story isn't accurate, because he had 4 girls, I think,
wow.
as his family,
Uh-huh.
and Lauren certainly did have a troubled early existence. Really. I got halfway through her book. I couldn't finish her book.
Wow.
It was just she had a rough early years.
I haven't read it. I do want to read her book, and I've heard the same thing. I heard it like it's kind of like doesn't hold back. That's pretty
No, she tells the whole story. Yeah.
Okay, this is definitely from I mean, not that all of these people aren't fans. This gentleman is definitely a fan. I'm just letting you know. His call letter is Philippines Farm Life. He says, Billy's best investment was his house. I understand it's the same house he bought when he was working on Father Knows Best. It certainly has appreciated a lot in over 65 plus years. John Phillips, Batangas, Philippines. Anything you would want to say about the house or anything?
Well, I just to repeat, certainly the best thing, smartest thing I ever did was to buy the house. And I can't take credit for it even. Jenny Maxwell was, I was seeing her at the time, and then I was living in the downstairs, the basement apartment.
Right.
And when it came up for sale, and she said, "You should buy this. You should buy this." It hadn't occurred to me to, what was 21 or something.
Yeah.
It didn't occur to me to buy the house, but she suggested it, and I took her up on it.
Are you? Did you think it? Like, nobody thinks exactly. But are you surprised that all these years later you're still in the same house?
I'm not really, because it's such a nice place that I couldn't imagine living anywhere else.
Yeah, it's like you're in nirvana, so to speak. Yeah, very cool, very cool. This is from Steve I. And some of these, if they are repetitive, then we'll move on. But the day the Earth stood still, did you remember anything in particular about the ship? What was Michael Rennie like on the set? We talked about that. Anything you remember about the ship at all?
Well, just that it was a typical movie facade. It was all plywood and 2x4s and back, and the front looked like a spaceship. So it was bifurcated right down the middle, and this half was 2x4s and plywood, and this half was spaceship. So
Was it like metal?
no, I don't think it was metal. I think it was just plywood painted.
Painted?
Yeah.
Interesting. Very cool. Okay. Tracy, in The Day the Earth Stood Still, obviously there are a lot of people that were fans of that for you. Do you remember saying the line, "Boy, Mr. Carpenter, you're a real screwball"?
I do. I don't remember it, but I've seen the movie somewhat recently,
Yeah.
and I do recall saying that, and I'm kind of surprised. I mean, it's not something I would have said. You know, it took some acting to get that out and not sound weird. You know.
Yeah, and that's obviously, I mean, that's how it was written in the script. That wasn't
Yeah.
just improv.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. That's it. You know, it's interesting. I think part of the reason that one caught my eye is I remember in the first interview we talked about on Father Knows Best, you were like, you know, man, can I just say something like crazy? And they were like, oh, I can't do that because that would be against, you know, people that are...
Offend the crazy people.
Exactly. And so, you know, here you're saying you're a real screwball, you know, and
Yeah.
that gets out. That's interesting. Okay, cool. Eileen, why do you think Father Knows Best still plays on TV and still holds up?
I know exactly why. Because we shot it as if it was a movie. And we never, occasionally there's a mic shadow, but rare, very rare. Because if anything wasn't just right, we'd another take. 10 and 12 takes was not unusual.
Wow, that is a lot for a television show.
Yeah, for a television show, and we had Victor on the camera, and he was old at the time, but he had he was an ace, really. I mean, we had the best people. Let's put it that way.
Wow.
If we had a mic operator or a boom operator, it was somebody who had a history of being good at that particular job, you know. And we had everybody that was involved was the best that could be obtained at the time, and the director was given carte blanche to not settle for anything that wasn't spot on.
Wow.
And like I say, I think I've seen a mic shadow once.
Yeah.
But other than that, there's no mistakes, you know. And television at the time was pretty fast and loose with their production. I remember somebody saying, or this is kind of a cliche almost, it's fight night tonight, you know.
Yeah, right.
Let's get out of here, in other words. You know, well, that wasn't the attitude that was on the set, on Father Knows Best set. It was we were doing little movies, and Robert Young was a movie star.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and he was partners with Rodney, who did all the going over the scripts and the business end of it, you know. And Bob never got into the actual producing of it.
Right.
But he did insist that it through the fact that Tewksbury had, I mean, he could do as many takes as he thought was required.
Yeah.
You know. And I don't think that was the way most TV shows were being done at the time.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I go back, I still watch it, and it does. It just holds up. I mean,
it's a little movie.
It's great.
You know?
It is. It's really solid.
Yeah.
To Neil, this goes back in our first interview. By the way, you showed the golden champagne.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and there's a few questions with it. But to Neil, Is your champagne cork invention from the first interview one of a kind, or can I buy one?
Well, we did make a bunch of them out of bronze early on when we first this was 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And we sold, I don't know, probably 70 or 80 of them. But I think we licensed it to an outfit that made them out of pot metal. But the person who had the license for it had a string of kitchen utensil stores.
Yeah.
And it really isn't a kitchen utensil, it's just it's in its own thing. So he had it for a few years and made some moldings, made some molds, and so I eventually he gave up on it as a product, and so there is still a few around, but it's not available. Let's put it that way.
Wow.
It's well, it is available if you want it in solid gold.
Exactly, and I'm happy to provide it.
Yeah, right. You can have number one.
Exactly. Okay, Rob, this is from Rob. Did you ever cross paths with Johnny Crawford from the Rifleman? And do you have any children?
No, I met Johnny, but we never hung out, or we weren't close. I didn't know hardly any other kid actors at the time, other than Driscoll and Blake and Stockwell. Those are the only actors that and Russ Tamblyn.
Right.
I knew him years ago as well. But no, I never got close with Crawford.
Gotcha. He says, do you have any children?
Not that I know of.
Gotcha. It's a classic. Tammy, did you do all your own acrobatics on the show? That's kind of what we talked about earlier.
Yeah. I enjoyed the physical stuff that Bud was able to do.
Did you always kind of jump at the chance, so to speak?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I encouraged it as much as I could.
I got you. Cool. This is from Brachio. I sort of wish the Father Knows Best episode revolving around Bud's shortwave radio had come up in the first interview. Any recollections of that episode?
Yeah, I do have. The whole thing was handled in the living room, I think, of the house, and I kind of was. I wondered if it was going to play. I didn't have much. I thought it might be kind of dull.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really all that enthusiastic about it as a medium for me to show off,
Yeah, I got you. It's interesting, though, that you recall that. Yeah, well, it is kind of. Shortwave radio. It was kind of a niche.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you gotta be one of those guys.
Yeah, exactly. This is from Pizzi. I heard in the William Holden movie, Father is a Bachelor, you were so great that they kept adding lines for you. Is that true?
I don't have a distinct memory of that, but that could be. That kind of thing did happen.
Yeah, okay. Gregory, I read that the kitchen set on Father Knows Best was actually functional. And when you saw cooking on that show, those burners were often really working. Cast and crew stored their lunches in the set refrigerator and sometimes would whip up something more on the stove. Is that true?
Yeah. The refrigerator worked, and I think the stove probably worked as well. And we did have cold drinks in the refrigerator.
Oh my gosh, that's wild.
As a matter of fact, at lunchtime, myself, the wardrobe guy, and Winnie, who was the script girl, and who else? One other person. You had to have four. We played hearts on the kitchen table, right? Almost every lunchtime, and it functioned, absolutely functioned.
Oh, is that funny that you actually were really using it? It wasn't
Yeah.
just a prop. Oh, that's cool. Okay, this is Jerry Cardwell. Let's see here. What did Jerry have to say? I really enjoyed the first interview. I was curious to know about his cap, which actually maybe I'll show you a picture of that. But you were wearing a cap. He said it appeared to be from like his alma mater. I don't know if you remember that. I probably should have shown you a photo of it. But you were wearing a cap with that jacket that you're wearing right now. Maybe it's one of your favorite caps too. But it had like some kind of a symbol or something on the top.
Yeah, there's. I've got a couple of caps. I've got one. My wife's son-in-law is was a air marshal.
Huh.
And so it had I got a cap, and that might have been the one he's talking about, because it has a kind of a badge look on the top of it, and it says United States Air Marshal on it. So
Okay.
if somebody reads it and asks me about it, I says I can't talk about it.
Okay, very cool. I think that might be the one. I got to go back and look, but I
think
just
it
remember a
is,
symbol. Yeah. Okay, this is Joyce Sander. If you get to see him, ask him if he ever asked Robert Young about working in the Charlie Chan movie, The Black Camel. It looked like it was really filmed in Hawaii. Robert Young was a main character in it. He was very, very young. Could have been 22. He had many scenes. And if so, if he ever said anything about Warner Oland.
As a matter of fact, I never talked with Young about his work, and I wasn't really aware of his. I mean, he was a real movie star.
Oh,
I mean,
what is it, Canterville Ghost or whatever?
yeah. I mean, he had Mae West. He was opposite Mae West in something.
Oh,
you know?
wow.
So he had a serious career.
Yeah.
And that I didn't really know much about, actually. I mean, I probably had heard his name, but I don't think I'd seen any of his movies to speak of. So I didn't. I mean, he was just another actor to me, you know.
Wow, that's so wild. I mean, it really is, when you think about that. But you know what? Maybe that's what made it so real.
Could be. Could be.
Okay, this is Hans Christian Brando. We keep waiting for he just wrote down I knew I was he kept waiting for you to say I knew I was adorable. I don't know. Also, what happened to Paul Wallace, Bud's friend Kippy, who went on to play Tulsa in the original Broadway and film versions of Gypsy?
Yeah, he was a dancer all along. I mean, he had been a dancer. I didn't really realize that until I saw Gypsy and said, "Hey, I know that guy."
Yeah.
No, Paul was. I don't know. He was a nice guy. We never hung out or anything. It was just when he. I guess he must have done 4 or 5 shows or something. He was kind of a regular.
Yeah.
But we never got close or anything.
Right.
I didn't even know he was a dancer, really.
Interesting. Yeah, because he's saying here that he feels like after Gypsy, he kind of disappeared. You didn't really hear much about him.
That happens.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that you see somebody and then you don't see him anymore. And you wonder what happened to him. I have no idea what happened to him actually.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
With a girl, they get married is what happens,
right,
But but with a guy, who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, maybe he left.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, he wouldn't be the first.
He liked his work.
Yeah.
He was enthusiastic about it. And so I think if he could have gotten work, he would have been happy about it. I would think.
Right.
But I don't know.
Gotcha. This is from John. Good name. I had a small part in the Father Knows Best reunion. I believe I worked 3 or 4 days, and it was heaven. I had a scene where director Mark Daniels asked me to whistle at Robert Young and Jane Wyatt, who were in the midst of an embrace. It was one of those whistles where you place your fingers between your teeth and blow. Well, I tried, but after 2 failed takes, I just couldn't do it. Billy, who was standing by, ran over to me, laid down on the ground, and shouted to the director, "I can do it for Johnny." And so for take 3, I faked it as Billy let out with a whistle you could hear in Oxnard. It worked. And we all had a really good laugh. Just curious, any recollection?
I don't remember that, but it sounds like something that might have happened. I couldn't do this either, the finger whistle.
Yeah, right.
But I had a good whistle, without the fingers. But now I got my teeth don't let me whistle anymore.
Yeah. But at the time, you could let out.
I had a good whistle. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Well, obviously, you made a hell of an impression on
Yeah.
me, so that's cool. I think in the first interview, you and I talked about the harmonica, because they put down, was your harmonica coach Larry Adler?
Larry Adler. That's I think I couldn't come up with his name. Yeah, but
Right.
yeah, he did concerts and stuff. I mean, he was a real professional harmonicist.
Wow,
you know?
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, he told me how to.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's so funny. Every time I do one of these interviews, every time, there's always a moment like, you and I were talking earlier, what was that film? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Somebody always
Somebody
writes in
knows,
and says,
yeah.
hey, by the way, that was so-and-so. Okay, here we go. It's from Matrix. Hey, Billy, is your motorcycle museum still open? If so, where's it located?
I don't know where that got started. Somebody said I had a motorcycle museum. I don't.
Yeah.
When I was into the racing big time, I had a whole bunch of bikes. I had like probably half a dozen bikes.
Yeah.
They're all in different stages of being bent.
Yeah.
Because they hit the wall frequently. But it was never anything but what you needed to have if you were going to go racing speedway.
Yeah.
You got to have a backup bike because into the wall and then get the other bike. So you needed 2 for sure, at least.
Yeah.
And over the course of 20 years, you end up with a whole bunch of bent frames.
I'm sure.
So I think it was just a pile of bent frames that somebody thought was constituted a museum.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. This is Stepan Bandera. Does he still wear a steel shoe on his left foot? He did back in the old days.
I did when I was on the racetrack. Yeah.
Interesting. Did that save you a few times?
Well, the thing is, you're turning left, and you're letting the rear wheel slide around,
Mm-hmm.
and if you let it slide around too much, you might fall down. So you put your left foot on the ground when you're doing that, and that's why the steel shoe's there, so it'll slide over the dirt, rather than it wasn't a safety thing as far as being a protection of the foot.
Mm-hmm.
It was so that the foot wouldn't catch on the dirt, and it was to save yourself from sliding out, basically.
Mm-hmm.
You could kind of just put your left foot down and keep the bike from going all the way to the ground.
Wow.
And as a matter of fact, there's a guy, Rick Woods' little brother. What the hell's his name now? Gene Woods has a hot shoe Hall of Fame, and because on Class C racing, which is way bigger than speedway racing,
Yeah.
they all have steel shoes too, because they're doing kind of something quite similar.
Yeah.
But it's a different motorcycle, so it's not the same thing. Speedway is kind of extreme because the forks are almost straight up and down,
Yeah.
like 20 degrees or something like that. And most forks are out like this. And the fact that the forks are straight up and down means you can get crossed up, and you can actually back a motorcycle in like you would a sprint car. You
That's cool.
You just back it in, and so that the speedway, his hot shoe Hall of Fame is got Class C racers in it and speedway racers.
Wow, that's pretty. Where's that located?
He's in Vegas.
Oh wow, shoot! I never heard of that.
Yeah, he gets people to send him the shoe, and he's got a collection of shoes now.
I love that idea. Okay, this is Irene I think Irene Winter. If you somehow were able to relive your life, what would you do differently?
Oh. Boy. Nothing major, except I think I should have been a little more I'm not real happy with the way I dealt with my early wives.
I remember this. Yes.
I think that's
yes.
the only regret I might have, is that I wasn't being a real person.
Yeah.
I was kind of just greedy and selfish.
Yeah, we had talked about it was more the physical than the
physical,
than the person,
that's rude and unfair, and I'm not proud of it.
When do you think, I don't mean this in a religious sense, by the way, so please don't take it that way. But when do you think in your life you started to have, I don't know. I don't know if it's an epiphany, but, that sense of like maybe softening a bit on things or having a different outlook towards things. What age do you think it started to hit you a little more?
Pretty late, actually. I think when I was 40 or 50, I started being a little more retrospective or introspective. But here I am, what am I, 87, 86?
Yeah, I knew you were 80. I was thinking 86. Did you have a birthday since our last one, though? But
yeah, well, January's coming up again,
it is,
so
it is.
I don't know.
Too fast.
I don't know whether that makes me 87 or 88.
Yeah,
I don't know.
right.
Pushing 90.
Yeah, well, that's good. You look good. I don't know if we asked this in the first interview. This is my own question. We're done with the questions, by the way, and thank you to everybody that sent them in. But did you work? I know that a lot of times it was like, look, these were just other actors, and you worked, and it was a job, and that kept you very grounded in essence. Mm-hmm. Were there any people that you did work with, or that you were around, that it was like, that's kind of cool that that's who this is as an actor? Yeah,
I remember Maximilian Schell.
Oh wow!
Yeah, he blew me away. We did a movie called what was the name of it? Something about vampires, huh. and I saw him act, and I said, wow, that's good. And I made it a point to be in back of the camera whenever he worked, because I was really impressed with his acumen.
Was he the type of actor that you get the quote unquote method actor, or you just get? Was he the type that could just turn it on when the camera started rolling, or?
I don't know what his technique was. I didn't have it. I was kind of comic relief in this movie a little bit. I was a major domo of his. He was the head vampire, and I was kind of his assistant.
Yeah.
And I never really got to talk. I was so impressed that I didn't try and get into his head or meet him even. Other than just doing lines. But we had a couple of scenes together. But he blew me away. I was really, I said, now that's the real deal there.
That's acting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. Anyone else throughout your whole career? Anyone else? I mean,
well, ran
a
lot of very nice people. Barbara Stanwyck was just delightful. She played my mother in a movie, and
she
was
did the birthday party.
Yeah, right.
Yes,
yeah.
I recall that.
Yeah, and I don't know.
Was she one to turn it on the camera, or was she still Barbara Stanwyck when the cameras were
That's a good question. I didn't know her well enough to know to notice if there was an alteration in her persona. But I mean, I've seen her work over the years, and she's a pretty good actress.
Strong. That's how I would say with her.
Yeah.
Okay, well, very cool. Just I said this in the beginning. It's true though. Thank you.
Good.
I really appreciate you
Good.
doing it. And the only thing I would add is I wish we had a bunch of those champagne corks. We'd be making a killing right now. No.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks a bunch, Billy.
Okay.
Well, thanks for listening, and definitely hit the subscription button. As well, hit the notification bell so that you'll know when my next episode is released. In addition, check out some of my other interviews if you haven't had a chance. Eric Roberts, Henry Winkler, Jerry Mathers from Leave It to Beaver. There's so many. Enjoy.